Hey everyone, this is T-Bone here with my handsome group of fellows. We all have some nicknames here, but we do have real names too. We're just a group of guys that have come together, and this is our first conversation today about some right-sized living. We have several topics for you today, but we're going to start with a quick little check-in as we kind of do amongst ourselves. So my name's T-Bone. I'm going to check in for our viewers here, for our listeners. We have a 1 to 10 scale of how we're doing on a daily basis. And this is just kind of everything, how we're feeling today. So, T-Bone today, T-Bone is feeling at about an 8.5. Everything seems to be going smoothly today. There's some babysitting stuff for kids, but we worked through that. And we're here today with some buddies here to talk about recovery. Let's go in counterclockwise direction as I'm seeing on the screen. So Seabass, you want to check in?
Yeah, thanks, T-Bone. I'm pretty excited right now. So I'd say like an 8.5. Starting this podcast off is exciting and new, and I am a little nervous, but I'm feeling good. I'm also an 8.5 because our son drove up yesterday and surprised us again from Eugene. He called me. He's like, "Hey," he called me right after a meeting got out, like right at 6:30. And he's like, "Hey, are you at home?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Well, I'm in town." So he's in town again, and so that's cool. I'm excited to see him. He actually spent the night somewhere else though. But I'm also 8.5 because we got a big trip planned coming up. We're going to Portugal to see my dad, who lives there. We're gonna spend Christmas with him. So yeah, a lot of good stuff happening right now.
Good stuff. Papa,
Uh, yeah, I'm doing well. I think I'm probably honestly at a 6. Have some health stuff going on that is challenging. However, working through it. I'm excited to hang out with you guys, as I always am excited about that. See where this thing goes, but for today, I'm at a 6 and excited to start this deal.
agreed. And Papa, we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. So thank you for that. And then just real quick before we go to B Flow, yeah, just again, a reminder to those listening, this is what we do. We all get to talk to each other pretty regularly. Although I haven't seen these guys physically in a while, so I'm pretty excited to hang out with them virtually here today. B-Flow, what's your day grade?
I'd say about a 8.5. Definitely excited about this to see what comes of it, and just got a few things planned today. Gonna go hang out with my brother-in-law, go check out a art exhibit. But yeah, this is exciting. So I'm looking forward to hanging out with you guys. Uh, Zoom. Hopefully, we can do some in-person meetings as well. But yeah, looking forward to the future of this.
Too soon?
Dude, I know you said not to pick 7, but since nobody else picked it,
Dude.
I'm at a 7. That's truly where I'm at, I'd say. I've got a lot of things to be grateful for. Just over 2 years clean, um, feeling pretty good about things, but I also have a lot of change coming up in my life that there's some concern around, and I'm just trying to navigate that. Yeah. So also very excited to try a podcast format out with you guys. I think it'd be, great way to like further, you know, just kind of the journey I've been on with y'all.
Real quick, if we could talk about that 7 for a second, too soon. On a traditional grading scale, a 7 out of 10 is like a C, right? But let's talk about that 7 because a 7 out of 10 ain't so bad these days for us, right?
Not for me. Seven's pretty good. I think for a lot of years I was stuck around 3 or 4, you know, if that. Um, so yeah, I mean, one thing I've learned over the past couple of years is just kind of how to see, you know, the stuff that is good in my life over the stuff that's bad all the time. Can things be better? Always, but like, again, I have a lot to be grateful for. And so, I've been able to get to the point where I can see that now. So yeah, 7's pretty good.
So on a
Yeah.
scale, Rob, what'd you say you were? 6?
Probably a 6. And
Okay.
so let me explain that. I generally live in between 8 and 9. In spite of all the challenges I usually have in my life, I do a lot of work with you guys and I help a lot of people, and that keeps me in a place where I'm really grateful. And because of this stroke that I had, I haven't been going to meetings, I haven't been interacting. And so it's been a lot of isolation, which put me in a lower place, like emotionally. And just it's hard thinking. So usually I'm a lot higher number, and being at a 6 doesn't mean that I'm seeing life as a negative thing. It's just where I'm at because I've been isolated, and that makes a really big impact on me.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned missing a lot of meetings, and we haven't seen you at the gym. We haven't seen you at coffee. What are some things that you're doing to get through this tough?
That's a funny question. Uh, so Anthony, do you want me to just get into? Is everybody done checking in?
Yeah, I think we're done checking in. We
Okay.
got a couple subtopics pop of this is probably a great time for us to hear a little bit about what's going on.
Okay, so we'll just start from the beginning. 3 weeks ago, I woke up and got out of bed and fell into the wall, and I couldn't talk, and my face was not working great. Like the muscles, when my hands weren't working, and I wasn't able to talk. So,
You say you fell into the wall?
yeah, it was great. I woke up, got out of bed, and fell into the wall, just like I used to when I was drunk. At any rate, eventually I went to the doctor and found out that I had what's called a TIA, which is a mini stroke. And so for the last 3 weeks, and what the side effects of having that for me is my brain is working at maybe half capacity. It's getting a lot better, but for the first 2 weeks I was emotionless. And Jen, my wife, mentioned to me 4 days ago that I laughed for the first time. Right. So one of the problems with my brain wiring itself back to normal is I don't feel emotions. Which is kind of daunting, and it's kind of it really feels like I'm drunk without the euphoria. Like everything's kind of slow. I don't react well. I can't articulate. I can't think things through. I can't process information, and I can't drive very, like for any length of time. Um, and so that's why I've been stuck at home, because once my brain and it builds up. I'm okay in the morning, and it builds up for a couple hours. Maybe I'm good for like 3 hours, and then it feels like my brain's gonna pop. So then I kind of have to sit in a dark room, and I can listen to the TV, but I can't watch it because that makes it worse. So that's why I've been isolating. It's really hard to be around people when my brain just feels like it's like my head feels like it's gonna pop. And so there's a balance, right? How hard do I push myself because I need to try to make some money? And how hard or how much do I make myself try to heal? And there's a fine line there, and so I'm still trying to figure that out. It's been like it's the holidays, and we may not have money to have my son have a nice Christmas this year, and for me that's heartbreaking. But it's the reality, and that's something that we're working through. So all I can do is wake up, and I try to go through the day pushing myself as hard as I can. I usually As you guys know, I work out every morning, and I haven't been able to do that for 3 weeks. I go to a lot of 12-step meetings. I haven't been able to do that very often. And I work at a treatment center, and I haven't been able to do that very often. So just navigating how long this is going to set me back and what to do so that so that we're not financially totally screwed, I guess, which is the biggest stress. And it wouldn't be a stress if it wasn't Christmas, right? I have an 18-year-old son who's everything to my wife and I, and it's going to be a tough Christmas. So that's probably what takes me from an 8 to a 6, is thinking about that. But yeah, that's part of what we do here, right? That's all of you guys. Is I have challenges that come up in my life that I have no fucking idea how to deal with. None at all. The way that I've always dealt with things is I've always gone and got loaded. And that kind of distracts me from real life. And so being sober for a few years, I've learned how to face challenges differently. And the biggest way that I do that is what we're doing right now. Obviously, this is going to be a public forum, but this is how I do my recovery. I sit down, I work things out with you guys. We figure out a plan of action to deal with whatever challenges that I'm going through. And we make a goal, and then I set forth to achieve the goal. And right now that's a challenge, and I don't know quite how to do that. So we're figuring that out. But yeah, that's enough out of me. That's kind of where I'm at.
Well, in a way, this is kind of like a 12-step meeting, right? For you?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
I think Brandon and I talked about it. Like, we can go to your house and have a meeting. You provide the
I'll, I'll be there tonight.
Brought up kidnapping you and taking you up, to go do something, go to dinner, or even just coffee, just to get you out. I mean, I couldn't even imagine the stance that you take on your sobriety and you're basically not able to do anything that pretty much brings you joy other than, being around your wife. So, I can imagine how difficult that is to go through, especially during the holidays. I think everybody, regardless if you have money or don't have money, how stressful, the holidays are for people. So when you add all these other aspects of life that come in and being able to manage it sober and not being able to run away, that's, I think, for everybody, regardless of what, your poison is. But we use that as a way to self-medicate. Excuse me. And so, yeah, I think having a group of people that, you may not be willing to do that, or you might not be ready for us to do that, but, we're considering that if you're willing to do that.
Thank you. Yeah, no, and I'll be there tonight. It is getting better. Like, I'm always willing to hang out with you guys. Whatever that has to happen to do that is an amazing thing for me. I'm blessed to have all you in my life. Yeah, it's just a process of figuring out what to do so that I don't trigger like a worse feeling in my brain. And like I said, it's hard to articulate, but
right.
Yeah.
That's how we help, another way we deal with shit is humor. I mean,
Yeah.
I've got my humor has come back. Like, I haven't, when I was going to my depths of drinking, I mean, I never laughed. I never cracked. I didn't really have anybody to crack jokes with. And so, all these things that I have forgotten, I completely lost myself. And all of these things that have, brought me joy and to where I was before, my alcoholism are coming back. And that's super exciting. Like, I get excited to do things that I've never done before. And when I was drinking, I was talking to James about it. It was always, I would do these these things, and my reward is like going, where could we go to get a drink after a hike or something like that. Any kind of event uh, was, was the reason to have a drink. And then it became where it was just, I just would just wake up and start drinking. So, but yeah, I love, being sober and being able to manage these, these obstacles in life aren't so monumental anymore. It's because when I drank, I would tuck it down, whatever was coming my way, and then, it just exacerbated the situation. So being able to deal with it and with sobriety, it is really helpful, and I can check that shit off my list. Before, it would just, these lists would just mount, and then, it gets so big, I would just like forget about it and just not do it, goals, obligations. So kind of.
Flo, you recently in a meeting, you mentioned getting through Thanksgiving, you're kind of feeling a little bit low.
I mean, I was really
family and
yeah,
stuff.
but I mean,
How were you able to get through that?
you guys and doing things that make me happy. I hung out with my brother on Thanksgiving, but even leading up to that, it, it wasn't, it wasn't something that I didn't even think about. There was one time, it was probably like 9 o'clock at night on Thanksgiving. It was like 5 minutes where I just felt really like all of a sudden this despair. And I wasn't considering drinking, but it was just like a drink would sound good right now. But that was about it. I mean, it was all just kind of leading up to Thanksgiving, and then Thanksgiving. I mean, it sucked that I wasn't with my family, because we typically rent a condo up at Mount Hood and go and timberline and uh, you know, get hot chocolate for the kids, sit in front of the fire and read books and shit. And we didn't do that. But I sent photos of our last year Thanksgiving, and so it was like James's Swiss cheese analogy of you build up um, all of these kind of fail safes, or redundant fail safes, so when shit like that happens, you are able to recover and not spiral out of control. And so it was just basically all of the things that I've learned over the past 4.5 months, and being able to deal with it and having the tools. So I mean, that's how I got through it. I imagine. I mean, there's just some things I can't explain. Sometimes I almost feel guilty that I'm not feeling worse, but then there's once a week maybe where I feel really shitty. But I know that what I do is I talk to myself. I think about all the hard work that I'm doing, and I'm making the right moves for the future. And I think about the future, because present Brandon is doing fucking great, considering my entire life is completely different, every aspect of it. And it's not overwhelming. Everything was overwhelming. And I was talking to James about this as well. Apologize. Everything, I mean, I had to relearn everything after I hit my bottom. I mean, I couldn't remember passwords. I could, even like setting up an email, because I was trying to, pull myself out of this fucking ditch that I dug myself. And I was scared. Like, I honestly didn't think. I was worried that I had permanent brain damage, because I couldn't function, my motor skills. I could barely walk. And seeing where I am now in such a short period of time, where I was, is astounding. So, I mean, that's the shit that, looking back of how much I've grown, has really helped. And I guess that's what gets me through. I mean, there's a lot of things I just can't explain, that help me get through. So what's going on with me, and that's how, I mean, who knows what Christmas is going to bring. Hopefully I get to see my kid, but if not, like I told Papa at our meeting yesterday, I'm just going to be the best dad that I can. And he had some really great information to help with that. So, I'm just doing the best I can, and I'm fucking proud of myself. I'm proud of you guys too.
I was gonna say there's one thought I had about what everybody's been sharing is that there's something that like maybe is a tough subject to tackle as far as like recovery goes, but I think that's why we talk a lot about having a level of willingness, and I mean there's the whole thought that like, at a certain point when you're in an addiction, like you have no choice in the matter, right? You want to stop but you can't. But I think you have to hit a level of willingness to where you do actually have some power, to do the things day by day that will help you not get to that headspace, right? And so it's really pertinent, I think, when you're talking about the Bermuda Triangle, which Christmas, Thanksgiving, and New Year's, like the holidays, right? It's a tough time for us addicts, and we have power there, right? We have power. If we're feeling down, we can reach out, we can go to a meeting, we can talk about how we're feeling, right? We can do all the little things, right, that kind of at least keep me from going back into that headspace where I want to pick up. I mean, did I ever do that in the past? No. And there was no surprise that like my first instinct was to pick up and check out, And so I think it's an important topic because there's a lot of talk about powerlessness, and and that certainly is the case when you're in the middle of an addiction, I think. But once you hit that point where you have that motivation to change, you do have power at that point. And doing things like this are a way that I get out of my own head, and these are the types of things that help me push through.
So also when I'm going through, and all, huge feelings, I go back to when I first started going to the 530, and how I was still able to manage getting through life. Not basically, I was probably on 20% of my brain power, physical, and the problems that I had bigger problems then, and I was able to manage and navigate through that. For me, honestly, I think, and I've talked to you guys about it, like that must have been my higher power to help me get through that. And I was talking to Papa and yesterday, and that, I feel that my higher power kind of nudges me or kind of guides me, but I have to do the work to do it. And so when I think things are, overwhelming, I go back to when, 4.5 months ago, when I was basically incapacitated, and I got through it, and having confidence in myself that I'm able to get through these situations, and it'll pass. And so and we all have gone through that. But that's what really helps me is you've been in shittier situations, and you've been able to get out of them, and not in a manipulative type of way, but you figured out how to do it. And I think a lot of the times for me, I'll have self-doubt that I can't do it, but I need to regroup and remember the things that I've done in my life when things were super hard and that got me here. But when you have no confidence at the moment where everything feels like, the world's just coming down on you. It's regrouping with yourself and being like, giving yourself a pep talk, being like, okay, you've actually done these things in life to get to where you are. You've had some setbacks. But that's what's really, really helped me, that's my 2 cents.
No, that's awesome. And I mean, I think that's kind of you're talking about like some of the ingredients that go into this, right? How do we make this pie, for lack of a better term? Like how do we make this happen? And there's a ton of ingredients that go into it, and you
Right.
highlighted a couple. So like going back to Beeflo, we're listening to your Thanksgiving, how that went, and then too soon you talked about this Bermuda Triangle, which is something like I just learned about last year.
Same.
I didn't know what the Bermuda Triangle was, but I
Therapist.
know I faced it every year for like 10 years. What was that, Seabass?
I have a therapist who's one of us, and she's the one that told me about that last year.
Okay, so Bermuda Triangle is where people go and get lost, right? Um, Disappear, right? And then I guess the parallel here is the holiday season for people like us, right? So it's the Thanksgiving, it's the um Christmas and New Year's, is that right?
Yep.
Is there those
Yeah.
three? Okay, and traditionally those are let's just say it, shitty times if you're going through some bad stuff already, right? Um, but yeah, on that note, like what's everyone's plan for this coming holiday season? Beeflo, I know you just got through a tough Thanksgiving. Rob, you're talking about, how are we going to get through this Christmas? But yeah, curious to hear like Seabass, it seems like you might be traveling too soon. I'm not sure. I think you're seeing family in Seattle, right? But we've all had some bad, I guess, Bermuda triangles, right? We've all gone through that. Like, is everyone generally optimistic about this one, or what are you feeling?
So for me, where my gratitude comes in, here's my baseline. Here's my shame and my desperate moment that I look at when I'm struggling. 6 Christmases ago, I was out trying to meet up with people that were going to steal things so I could give my son presents, and I was going to do these things, and I couldn't take it upon myself to go and steal a cart of toys from Walmart. I just didn't have that in me. So finally got back home at like 7 a.m. and my wife and my son are waiting up for me. And in a panic, I went into my son's closet and I wrapped up his toys that I gave him like a year before that. So I have that thing like broke my heart. Obviously my son was devastated. My wife and I were devastated, and I had nothing to give my son, and I wasn't sober, so I couldn't be emotionally available. And so Christmases for me are a part of my living amends, and it's not about the gifts. It's about showing up and being available for my son. And luckily, we've talked about that bad Christmas numerous times. And from what we talk about, he's passed, and I'm sure it will always hurt him. And the way that I stay above going there and dealing in that shame is it was, Brandon kind of touched on it. And so real quick, so when I was in my addiction, right, the way that I got through my bad emotions was I took the action of getting loaded, right? There was an action there. And the way I have to deal with that in my sobriety is I also have to take an action. I can't think this thing through and say, oh, you're doing good, Rob, you're doing good, keep it up. But that doesn't work. I physically have to take an action to get out of my bad thinking. And what those actions look like for me is there's a lot of people around the holidays that are suffering much greater than I am, right? That don't have family, they don't have places to stay, they don't get to sit around a table with their family and enjoy a Christmas dinner or a Thanksgiving dinner. And so the actions that I usually take in the holidays is I make an intent to help someone who's where I was 6 years ago, right? 5 years ago. And by doing that, it reminds me of where I was, and it gives me the gift to acknowledge where I'm at today. And I can't do that when I'm alone thinking I can be okay or thinking I'm going to be okay. I have to take a physical action to get past the negative thought that I'm in. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's about perspective, right? Like it's kind of remembering different times, different situations for others, and then going back to like that gratefulness for where you are today. And it's not to like, you know, poo-poo on where someone else might be or where you were on 5 years ago, where you were at 5 years ago, but it's more just to, again, that perspective to say like maybe things aren't that bad. I don't know. That seems to help me in a lot of situations, you know, is you know, for me it's a time warp, right? To like where I was last year. Last year I didn't have my two kids for the 4 months, right? 4 months I didn't see them right through the holiday season. And I was just, it was a really tough time. And like look at today, I'm optimistic about this holiday because I got them for Thanksgiving and I'm gonna have them for Christmas too. And you know, 2 years ago that wasn't possible, right? So
Can I just say, I just love that you kind of linked your previous like choice of action during your addiction to your current choice of action in your recovery. I think that's perfect. And if I think if you look at all of our stories, Anthony, when you just mentioned last year that you didn't have your kids around, now you could have taken, you know, a couple of different actions, right, during that time. One of those actions could have been going to the liquor store, you know, but instead you chose, I think, because you got to a point where, you know, you didn't want that anymore. You wanted a different life. And so you took different actions, right? And now look at how your life has changed. You're in your kids' lives. It's the same for me, you know. Instead of choosing to like get stuck in shame, um, isolate, you know, not talk about how I'm feeling. You know, I take action now and I go to a meeting. You know, um, I reach out to somebody. You know, I'm available for other people in recovery. You know, go to the gym, right? Healthy action, and I mean, I think the you know as cheesy as it sounds, or as you know, they say it's a simple program, not easy, simple but not easy, and I think that's the simplicity of it. It's like choosing a different type of action is what it comes down to, and we have that choice.
I mean, and that's the whole basis of this podcast. You know, with sobriety, that's what I've learned is helping others, and that's why we're doing this, is to help others.
yeah, you're helping me just by being here. I haven't been to a meeting in 5 days, guys, and things get weird, right? But this is, I mean, this, I was quite honestly like, I mean, 5 years ago, I didn't think I'd be looking forward to going to sleep on a Saturday night and knowing that I was going to hang out with you guys. Like, I didn't think that was not my lifestyle back then, was to be excited about hanging out with some dudes on a virtual call um, on a Sunday morning and waking up early and, you know, getting babysitters to do it and all that stuff. Like, um, but like that action that Tucson was talking about, like it has to become so like ingrained in the daily life. But then I don't know, tell me if I'm wrong or if you guys have a different experience. But for me, like just doing that action has to lead to all these cool things happening, right? So like I never thought I'd want to go to meetings. I never thought I'd want to go to the recovery gym, and I still don't go that many times, but I when I do go, I get excited. I never thought I'd want to do a lot of things, but those actions have opened other doors, like friendships with you guys, a community that of people that are like-minded, um, insights from other people, learnings, right? Like to just help you really understand your own situation and like all those actions have kind of led to a positive place where we are today. Um, I don't know, maybe I'm going a little off tangent, but for me that's been critical. It's just like if you just do the damn thing, then things happen that you never thought would happen, but then they turn out to be pretty darn cool. Yeah.
Yep.
So I think when you're talking about, so you guys, a couple people have mentioned how maybe, I mean, the hope is right. We're doing this podcast. We're not professionals. I'm not a professional. I work with a lot of professionals, but the hope is that maybe someone can hear this and realize like there's a way to get through the chaos and find some kind of peace and serenity in their life in spite of the choices that they've made in the past. And I think the goal is going forward is to continually talk about how we deal with continuing to make better choices that align with the healthy lifestyle and behaviors that we have. And the biggest tool that I use is what we're doing on this Zoom call right now is that I need to sit down and get real and get honest and get vulnerable with you guys and talk about and share the story about rewrapping my son's present. Jesus Christ, it's not a cool thing to say, and especially knowing that maybe someone else is going to hear it, but you know what? It's my reality. And if someone else has gone through some things like that bring up shame and guilt and can understand that there is a way to get through this. And if those of us that are on this can do it, like we come from all different backgrounds. And it doesn't matter what the struggle has been. I've found a way to navigate it. And I haven't wanted to get loaded for years. So in spite of having some shit going on with my head, not being able to have money for Christmas, I get to still be at a 6 instead of being a victim and having a pity party and saying, woe is me, and saying, oh, I'm at a 3 because I don't have all these things aligning the way that I think they should. I get to react to a bad situation and understand that it's up to me to choose a pathway through this that aligns with my healthy behaviors and goals that I have. And that's what we're doing right now. And that's what we do every day. So, yeah.
Well put.
And that's why you're Papa. Hey, Tucson, if you had if you didn't have just you did a heart of thing, and I don't know if you know this, but if you have an iPhone, I know you're against iPhones, but hearts will appear and pop up. Did you know
No,
that? Yeah, looks like we won't get that. If you have a MacBook too, it happens.
I don't
Yeah.
think we should start the phone debate on the podcast, should we?
I don't. You probably not. That's probably its own.
Well, don't
Probably its
have
own
shame over
podcast.
your Android. I love you whether you have it or not.
I know things are looking up, man. Love
So I
Android.
don't know if it works here, but I have a MacBook. It should do it, but hearts are supposed to pop up. But um, how you guys feeling right now?
7.
7 from a 6.
I'm a 6.
From a 6, just like that.
Same.
Yeah, 8.
You went down, Seabass?
Oh, was I 8.5?
What, 7?
Maybe I did go down. I was really excited to start, and now I'm leveling out. No, I'm still at 8.5. You guys were talking about the holidays and whatnot. I've shared this with you guys, and I've shared it in meetings. Well, part of the reason why I am an 8.5 is because of the holidays. I'm actually looking forward to it. Going to see my dad for Christmas, which I haven't spent a Christmas with him since my parents got divorced, which was when I was about 5, maybe closer to 6. So I'm 51. Do the math. It's been a really long time since I've been with him. for Christmas. So, and I don't even remember spending Christmas with him. So this is going to be an exciting trip. I get to take my wife and child, or my, the whole family's going. So that's going to be special. And for me, I'm in a really safe place. I've done this trip to Portugal to see my dad earlier this year in February, and that was a huge deal. I had to prep for that with my therapist, with meetings, with you guys, because I was really nervous about flying on my own. I did this trip alone, and I got through it. I didn't have a desire to drink. I wasn't panicking for anything. No alcohol, no triggers. But I got through that. This go around, I'm going with my family, and you know, Sarah is super supportive. I got my son with me. My dad, who's French, doesn't drink, doesn't normally keep alcohol in his house. I think he has a bottle of wine there for my sister when she visits, but it just sits there on the shelf. So I'm really comfortable this time flying overseas um, and doing this trip. And I'm super excited and looking forward to it. And so yeah, that's where I'm at with the whole Bermuda Triangle. In the past, yeah, I think for me, Thanksgiving was probably the worst for me. Um, Christmas and New Year's, not so much. I can't even stay up till midnight these days for New Year's, so not a big deal. But Thanksgiving for me was always kind of an excuse for me to hit the bottle early and start prepping for dinner or food. But anyway, that's where I'm at with the whole Bermuda Triangle. To your point, T-Bone. How about you, man?
I mean, it's stressful a little bit, but like it's a good stress, right? Like it's good pressures. Like my stress for this holiday season is about getting work done and getting two kids on a flight to Southern California. And those to me that yeah, it's crappy in the moment when you have an almost 2-year-old banging the seat in front of you on a flight. Or you're wrangling two kids to get to their airport and parking valet to run across the bridge and catch a flight. But like those are all good pressures, right? Those are all good stressors. I'm looking forward to it, man. My mom's got some health issues, so to be able to be there and let her see her grandchildren on the holidays is like it's a living amends, right? It's kind of making things right as best I can today. So I'm looking forward to it. And then who doesn't like Southern California when it's 68 degrees and it's not cold like it is here. I don't know if you guys are cold, but I'm pretty cold here. Been pretty wet too last day. So I know someone here likes the rain. I don't.
I love the rain.
Too soon. What was your rating? What was your rating? Because you first
Mine was
checked in.
mine was a 7. Yeah, I mean, Bermuda Triangle for me this year is a little different. I'm getting ready to move. Uh, and I mean, obviously nobody would know this except for you guys, but if this is going to be a public facing uh, deal, I moved down to Portland a couple years ago for treatment or after treatment. I went to rehab for the 4th time. Uh, uh, Found a great community. Um, been clean for the longest period in my life, 42, uh, since I was 14, and now I'm getting ready to move back and kind of resume the life that I left. And so I have some concerns, but one thing that I've figured out over these last couple of years is that my vocation, and I know they say it shouldn't be vocation in the literature, but my vocation going forward, because I got a big career too. That career for me, recovery, because without that, nothing else matters. And that's something for me that I've figured out. And that has to be the way things are going forward for me. If I let up on that, I have plenty of evidence, from the past that it's not long before I start thinking it's a good idea to pick up, and to kind of tie this together with action, which has kind of been a theme for us today, I guess. You know, for me, that means making sure I have a home group to go to when I, set foot back up north, right? Making sure that, I have a place to work out, which, fitness has become a really important part of my recovery program. And it's done a lot for my mental health, right? Making sure that, that I have a sponsor situation lined up, right? That means continuing to work with my current sponsor, shout out Papa. Or if that means, picking up somebody else, so all those things.
You were talking about joining a CrossFit gym up there. Do you do some
Yeah.
work?
Yeah, it won't be a recovery gym, unfortunately. That,
Oh,
but yeah, I found one that I plan on joining. That's like less than 5 minutes from work. So up in the Highlands. Yeah. So yeah, all those things. And I mean, these are action steps that I'm taking, right? To further kind of what I've been doing. And as far as for getting through, I'll be down here still for this year's Bermuda Triangle. And I plan on just being with you guys, right? Doing all the stuff that keeps me from getting in that headspace that makes me think that using wasn't such a bad thing, right? So yeah, I'm a 7.
Still 7.
C.
C.
We
C's get you degrees.
they do.
Well, I don't know. I know I registered as an 8.5, but I'm gonna go ahead and go to a 9 just because
9 bone.
9 bone. Yeah,
9.
9. No. I think, I don't know, just this was this was a meeting for me, right? And anytime we go to a meeting, I know we don't leave there worse. Unless the coffee's really bad. But we don't even have coffee at our meeting, so we can't even complain about that. Anyways, but yeah, I went up a notch just because I got to see your faces and hear your voices and remind myself on this lovely wet Sunday in Portland, why I'm here doing this thing,